The printed seat history was still in Megan Laird's hand when Scott Brenner asked Reggie Fulton for identification again. I was sitting across the aisle in row 2. The paper already showed the problem. Reggie's original boarding record placed him in seat 2A. A second entry showed his seat had been changed manually before boarding. The reason code was one I knew from customer service work. Priority adjustment. That should have put the focus on whoever changed the record. Instead, Scott was still looking at Reggie. I worked as a senior in-flight standards manager for Westland Air. I was deadheading to New York after a crew training assignment in Seattle, so I had no operational control over the flight. My job that morning was simply to sit down, stay out of the working crew's way, and get home. A few minutes earlier, that had been easy. Reggie boarded with his 6-year-old son Noah and took the window seat in row 2. Noah pushed a small backpack under the seat and immediately asked if he could see the clouds before he fell asleep. Nothing about them drew attention. Then Karen Daly stopped beside the row. She checked the number above the seats and looked at Reggie. I was told 2A might be available. Reggie unfolded his boarding pass. This is what they assigned us. Karen showed hers to Megan when she arrived. The records did not match cleanly. Karen's current reservation showed the premium row. Reggie's boarding pass still showed 2A. Megan frowned at her tablet. I need to verify this. Karen nodded and explained that someone in the lounge had discussed moving her forward. Then Megan turned to Reggie. May I see your ID? That was the moment I started paying closer attention. Karen had made the request. The airline had apparently changed something, but Reggie was the first one being asked to prove anything. He handed over his license. New argument? No performance. No mention of who he was. Megan checked the name against the reservation. She gave the card back. It matches. Reggie slipped it into his wallet. Can you check where the seat change came from before moving either of us? Scott Brenner stepped out of the forward galley. He was the customer service lead assigned to the flight. Megan showed him the screen. Scott looked at Reggie. You seem pretty certain this seat is still yours. Reggie held up the boarding pass. I'm asking you to check the record. Karen received a different question. Were you requesting a quieter seat or just a move forward? She answered that she had asked about moving forward. Same dispute. Different kind of scrutiny. I leaned into the aisle. Scott. He looked at me. If this is a manual adjustment, shouldn't we identify the controlling record before describing either passenger as being in the wrong seat? Scott recognized my badge. He also knew I was not working the flight. Lucas, we've got it. I nodded and sat back. I had asked the question. I had not changed the decision. Megan went to the printer near the galley. She returned with the seat history. That was when the reason code appeared. Priority adjustment. No aircraft change marker. No operational explanation beside it. Peter Donahue, an aircraft maintenance reliability engineer, sitting one row behind me, leaned forward. What time was that entered? Megan read the timestamp. Peter pulled out his company tablet. My team had the premium cabin locked during the seat module check this morning. Scott looked at him. Was the lock released before this? Peter checked. Barely. He turned the screen towards Scott. The maintenance restriction ended only minutes before the manual adjustment. That record came from a different system. Customer service could not rewrite it. Noah had been quiet through most of the exchange. Then he looked up at Reggie. If the airline changed it, why do you have to move? Nobody answered him. Scott studied the printed history again. This time he opened the detailed audit. The seat had not changed because of maintenance. It had not changed automatically. The employee credential belonged to Sean Mallory in customer experience. Scott stopped looking at Reggie. He picked up the cabin phone instead. Hold boarding. The mood around the row changed immediately. This was no longer a question about who should sit in 2A. Someone inside Westland Air had changed Reggie Fulton's reservation before he reached the aircraft. Now we needed to know what they had seen before they did it. The passenger profile had been opened before Reggie Fulton ever reached row 2. I saw the access time on Cynthia Moreland's screen. She had joined us in the conference room beside the gate. Sean Mallory had opened Reggie's account first. Minutes later, he used his customer experience credential to create the priority seat adjustment. Karen Daly's profile had not been opened at all. That changed the question. Sean had not reacted to anything Reggie did on the aircraft. He had made the decision before Reggie boarded. Cynthia opened the section Sean had viewed. One line appeared near the top. High attention traveler. Additional verification advised. I recognized the wording. In-flight standards had seen similar customer awareness notes in training materials for years. We were told they helped crews understand previous service problems before approaching a passenger. I had never asked how much context came with them. Reggie leaned toward the screen. What created that note? Cynthia opened the source record. The complaint was about 18 months old. Then, Karen's name appeared. She stopped moving. I filed something, she said. I didn't know it stayed on his account. Cynthia kept reading. The original report did not describe a threat. It did not say Reggie refused an instruction. It described an argument after he questioned why his wife had been asked for repeated verification. Another traveler nearby had not been. Karen remembered his reaction. The employee summary preserved that reaction. The reason behind it had almost disappeared. Over time, another note reduced the incident to a warning. It said Reggie might require additional verification. Reggie looked at Cynthia. Was the original complaint resolved? She scrolled farther. Yes. And was that resolution attached to what Sean saw this morning? No. That was the first time I understood what the system had actually done. It had kept the warning easier to find than the outcome. Karen looked at Reggie. I didn't ask anyone to change your seat today. Reggie nodded. I believe you. She seemed surprised. Cynthia asked Karen what the lounge employee had told her. Karen said she had requested a quieter seat and was told 2A might become available because the existing reservation was under review. Did anyone tell you why? Cynthia asked. No. Did you ask? Karen looked down. No. Nobody needed to add anything. Cynthia turned toward me next. Lucas, are crews trained to verify the source of a customer awareness note before using it? I knew the safe answer. Customer experience owned the notes. Sean made the adjustment. I could have kept my department outside the problem. Instead, I thought about the training decks I had approved. We tell employees those notes provide service context. Cynthia waited. We don't require them to open the original complaint first. Scott Brenner looked toward me. I continued. We also don't require the final disposition to appear beside the warning. That was harder to say. It was also true. The problem had moved beyond Sean. A system could not teach employees to trust shorthand. It could not then pretend to be surprised when someone acted on it. Cynthia temporarily disabled Sean's ability to modify premium reservations while the review continued. Then she searched for other uses of the same customer awareness mechanism. The result was not immediate. She narrowed the records by access pattern rather than race. 34 passenger profiles appeared. Some contained documented safety or service events. Others contained labels such as difficult, aggressive, or additional review. The original incident wasn't visible beside them. Cynthia ran a demographic comparison only after she separated the incomplete notes. Black travelers were represented far more heavily in that group. No one in the room called it proof of the same motive in every case. The shortcut was enough. My phone rang before Cynthia could continue. It was Westland's corporate travel desk. They were trying to reroute Reggie and Noah in time for Noah's medical procedure in New York. The agent asked whether Helix Point Technologies wanted its executive travel contact involved. Scott looked at Reggie. I did too. That was when I learned the quiet father across from us had founded Helix Point Technologies. Reggie did not use the moment. He only asked whether Noah could still reach New York that night. Cynthia closed the historical search. We're restoring the original seat record, but this review is continuing. Then she looked at Scott and me. Both of you need to stay for the formal findings. The issue was no longer whether Reggie belonged in 2A. We now knew why someone had doubted him before he even arrived. The formal review lasted longer than the flight delay. By then, Reggie Fulton and Noah were already on another Westland Air departure to New York. I stayed behind because Cynthia Moreland had asked in-flight standards to remain part of the investigation. Sean Mallory joined by video. His access record was on the screen. He had seen Karen Daly's request for a quieter premium seat. He opened Reggie's historical profile, read the warning about additional verification, and changed seat 2A without opening the original complaint resolution. Cynthia asked why. Sean said the old note suggested Reggie might create a service problem. Did anything happen on the current trip before you changed the seat? Sean looked at the record. The answer was no. That mattered more than his explanation. He had allowed an old description to make a current decision before Reggie had done anything. Employee Relations removed Sean's profile access and premium adjustment authority that afternoon. His final review came several weeks later. Westland terminated him for using unsupported historical behavioral information to alter a current reservation without checking the underlying case. That was his responsibility. The company's responsibility was larger. Cynthia's team completed the review of the 34 passenger profiles we had identified. Some notes were supported by specific events and complete records, others were not. A significant group contained descriptions like difficult, aggressive, or additional verification advised. They did not show what the passenger had actually done, how the complaint ended, or whether the information still mattered. Those descriptions had been easier for frontline employees to see than the records behind them. That changed. Westland removed free text behavioral labels from the live passenger service view. A historical complaint could affect a current interaction only if the record contained the specific conduct and a verified source. It had to show the final disposition and a reason the information remained relevant. Closed complaints could not become permanent warnings simply because an employee had summarized them badly. Premium seat adjustments based on historical customer information also required a second reviewer. My department had work to do. Cynthia sent me the training section of the findings. I read it twice. In-flight standards had never told crews to check the source behind customer awareness notes before trusting them. We had treated those notes as useful context. We had not asked whether the context was complete. I signed the corrective action plan with my own name on it. The revised training stopped teaching employees to begin with a passenger's reputation. Current conduct came first. Historical information could only follow if the policy allowed it. Karen returned for the closing review voluntarily. She sat across from Reggie at a long conference table. I stayed near the end with Cynthia and Scott Brenner. Karen did not defend the seat request. She confirmed that 18 months earlier, Reggie had questioned unequal treatment involving his wife. She said she remembered his reaction more clearly than the reason he had reacted. She also admitted that when the lounge employee told her Reggie's reservation was under review, she accepted that explanation because it matched what she already believed about him. Then she placed a sealed envelope on the table. "I wrote this for you." Reggie looked at it. "Thank you for participating in the review." He did not open the letter. He did not tell her everything was forgiven. Cynthia moved to the final item. Westland had corrected the affected passenger profiles and begun contacting the people whose unsupported notes had influenced later service decisions. Reggie's Helix Point title never entered the personnel findings. His company had offered to provide technical advice on access controls, but Reggie declined any role in deciding who should be punished. He had asked for the system to stop carrying an incomplete version of people forward. That was what Westland changed. The meeting ended quietly. Scott left first. Cynthia gathered the review folders. Reggie checked the time because Noah was waiting with a family travel coordinator before their next medical appointment. He thanked us and walked out. I stayed behind to sign the final training acknowledgement. Karen's envelope was still on the table. I looked at it once before switching off the conference room display. I did not touch it. The envelope stayed where she had left it. If stories about fairness, dignity, and accountability matter to you, subscribe for more. This story is fictional.